Crude oil is hazardous to the environment and all life forms. Aquatic ecosystems are especially sensitive to defilement. In such environments, crude oil can have a 1 to 1 million contamination ratio. 1 gallon can pollute a million gallons of water. Some of the crude oil disasters that have been troubling us for over a century involve tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, and even billions of gallons per case. I don't think that most of the major disasters that I've researched were accidents. All around the world, oil infrastructure disrupts nearby communities. These civilizations and the ecosystems that served as their foundations were healthy before the infrastructure was established. After the oil camps, pipelines, wells, and pump stations were set up, their environment was grossly polluted. They got sick, and the disease spread to livestock and wildlife. Because they live off the land, this also ruins their local economies. So these effects span multiple domains. The ingredients of crude oil vary depending on the type, yet some ingredients include the defects chemicals, benzene, ethylbenzene, xylene, and toluene, and possibly hydrogen sulfide and naphthalene. Crude oil may also contain poisonous levels of chromium, selenium, arsenic, cadmium, lead, benzo, pyrene, and mercury. These ingredients, namely cadmium, lead, arsenic, and mercury, can also be found in some mining projects. So this list of toxic substances is somewhat relevant to mining. That will be covered shortly. You may remember from the Modern Ecological Warfare chapter that some of these are the same ticks that accredited sources tell us can be used as improvised chemical weapons. Exposure to crude oil occurs through inhalation, ingestion, and skin contact. Just the inhalation of some of these toxins can cause sickness and death. That will be expanded on in the flaring chapter. Short-term exposure to crude oil contamination includes irritation of the lungs, throat, and nose, dizziness, headache, drowsiness, nausea, fatigue, and severe lung disease. Long-term effects from crude oil exposure include reproductive and nervous system damage, leukemia and other types of cancers, spontaneous abortion, birth defects, and infant mortality. Okay, let's have a look at some specific ingredients in crude oil. Toluene, naphthalene, and hydrogen sulfide will be covered in the flaring chapter. Benzene. The human carcinogen benzene has been solidly linked to cancer, such as leukemia, and lots of other serious health problems. In addition to harming the brain, liver, kidney, lungs, and heart, benzene sabotages DNA by breaking its strands. High amounts of benzene in the air, soil, or water stunts plant growth. If airborne benzene lands on foliage, it directly damages the tissue of some species, basically functioning as a defoliant. At high concentrations, benzene outright kills plants. In other words, from two different approaches, benzene is an effective herbicide. Cadmium. Cadmium is another human carcinogen that causes bone demineralization, harms lungs and kidneys, and disrupts both male and female reproductive systems. Studies on animals show that it crosses the placenta to induce cognitive impairment, abnormal metabolism, low birth weight, skeletal deformation, and fetal mortality. Arsenic. The human carcinogen arsenic has been linked to cancer of the liver, skin, lungs, bladder, and kidneys. Arsenic can breach the placenta to cause spontaneous abortions, stillbirth, and birth defects. Benzoapyrene. Benzoapyrene is a neurotoxin. That is, it kills brain cells. Studies on animals show that it is a genotoxic, cancer-inducing carcinogen. In addition to causing cancer, damaging DNA, and killing brain cells, benzoapyrene impairs reproduction and causes birth defects. Mercury. The food chain disruptor mercury is one of the most lethal elements. It is an established neurotoxin and genotoxin. In small amounts, mercury is severely harmful, especially to children and developing fetuses. Mercury causes neurological damage and cardiovascular problems. It decreases fertility, lowers intelligence, impedes reflexes, and induces birth defects. Mercury crosses the placenta and goes through the blood-brain barrier of the fetus to sabotage its neurological development. Lead. Lead is another bioaccumulative food chain disruptor that is extremely toxic to humans and all plant and animal life. Like mercury, lead is a neurotoxin, inflicting brain damage even in small amounts. Lead causes reproductive problems, miscarriage, premature birth, and stillbirth. It crosses the placenta to disrupt fetal development. In summary, crude oil contains a mixture of incredibly adverse substances that harm plants, animals, and humans. The long-term effects of crude oil poisoning from inhalation, direct contact, or ingestion include kidney and liver disorders, various types of cancer, infertility, reproductive and nervous system damage, low birth weight, birth defects, infant mortality, and spontaneous abortions. So you see how effective crude oil is for A2AD and soft kill depopulation. Here's my summary of crude oil used as a clandestine weapon of mass destruction, taken from my June 2019 report. Crude oil is a highly effective natural WMD due to its severe toxicity to all life forms. The psychopaths have been staging inland and coastal crude oil spills in Antarctica, Australia, Europe, Africa, Asia, North America, and South America. Some of these disasters involved millions or billions of gallons. They have ruined ecosystems, polluted water and food supplies, sickened and murdered people, and displaced entire communities in their intercontinental oil dumping fury.